Who's ready to win the day in sports? I know you are. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com, Monday through Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Justin Fensterman, and let's break everything down from a fantasy sports perspective. Good afternoon, everybody out there. My name is Justin Fensterman, and welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily here on the Elite Plus Network, powered by FantasyGuru.com, where you could go and get all that greatness all across the sports world. For the next little bit, we're going to be talking some football. We're going to be talking about basketball. We're going to be putting you in the position to win. You could give me a follow at Fensty Sports, Fensty Sports on X, Instagram, and you can find all my work at fantasyguru.com and mainly in that Discord area of DFS NBA and NBA betting at Fensty_Fensty with a little tail. That's what it's all about here in the Discord channel. Always in there, rocking and rolling with NBA betting and from the DFS side as well. It's not just about the articles. It's about lineup building and winning together at the place where winners win, right at fantasyguru.com. Ray Flowers off the day. You know that I host every Wednesday. Part the C a little bit. Ray Flowers takes care of the rest. He'll be on a little bit later on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. That's Sirius XM Channel 87 for the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Mance that you can catch all week long. You might hear a little bit of construction. It's not tool time or home improvement or anything like that. I think I said this before a few weeks ago. I got this neighbor that's completely redoing his garage and everything, and the entire neighborhood is going nuts, but it's so much hammering all the time. But how are we going to turn that into a positive? I'm a glass half full guy. We're going to talk about what players to hammer in NFL and NBA when it comes to getting through this week. What is going on? How good to see you. It's always great to see members of the Elite Mafia there. Paul, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. 5-hole. There you go. 5-hole, always active when it comes to the NBA betting. A lot of low lines that we are looking at there. By the way, Robert, good to see you as well. Going to be previewing the NBA slate in just a little bit, but I've got some football news and notes for all of you. A lot of injuries, as you can see right here, that we're going to be watching out for. A big week ahead in the NFL. If you didn't know by now, well, you better call somebody because we've got 6 teams on bye. And this isn't it. It's not it. Because this is week 12. Week 13, Thanksgiving week, we've got games all over the map, but everybody's playing. And then week 14, another 6 teams on bye. So this is preparation today, not only for this week, but for beyond as well. And if you go to fantasyguru.com, you'll see coverage from Tyler Beaker and also Rich Miletto, the Fantasy Bosco. Questionable to join me today, by the way, to talk some streamers. We'll have to see here as Rich is dealing with a work thing, but we'll have to see if he shows up or not. If not, you'll be able to find his content already up there for the keep and the cut, the buying and the selling, and he'll have his streamers takes up there a little bit later on as well. Always getting you ready. Course as well, while I'm promoting things, One Man's Opinion, Jeff Mans' weekly podcast that comes out every single week. Be on the lookout for that. I've got my own podcast that comes out on the Elite Plus network called Fensty's Basketball Diaries. What it is, it's pretty much me reading my NBA notes. As I watch basketball games, I take quick notes, quick thoughts, quick reactions. That way I can go back to those notes when I'm watching that team the next time. You must wonder sometimes how we all watch as much tape as we do. And watching tape takes a lot of time. It's a lot that I do in the overnights trying to find condensed games, trying to find feeds. I'm recording games all over the place. I can't watch every single team every night. It's virtually impossible without being able to critically focus. So what I do, and this is something you all can do out there as well, whether it's basketball or any sport, a lot of you ask me, Fensty, how do I understand the game better? It's simple. Watch, watch, watch. It's a lost art now. Sports fans, your kids, your little brothers, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they don't want to watch the games anymore, and they're missing out. Let them box score surf. Let them just feast off the topsoil headlines where from our watching, from our research, We will help you get there. I can't watch every minute of every game. It's impossible. So what I do is I take a team, and depending on, of course, who's on the slate, I keep track of how much I watch every team. So I get a nice balanced diet of all of these teams, whether it's basketball or football. And I read a lot through the play-by-play log, but that can only get you so far. Seeing is believing, especially in the sport of basketball. That's where it starts. And that's why tonight, as you see in red, Doug, what is going on? Yo, MTV Raps, by the way. Awesome show back in the day. I used to work with Ed Lover a little bit. Nice guy, great guy, just a legendary dude in the hip-hop world. But I digress, because tonight we're all watching the games together. Watch Along Wednesday. We do it every freaking Wednesday. And I'm going to be honest, last Wednesday, attendance sucked. It was awful. We should be having every basketball fan that's part of the Elite Mafia in there every Wednesday. I'm writing game notes. It's there for you. I'm answering questions, not just about late night betting or alt-line parlays. I'm answering questions about these teams. Fensty, what is going on with Lou Dort? Well, he's getting the shots. He's missing the shots. Nothing we can do. He's grabbing the boards, though. We're seeing it. Low percentage shots versus high percentage shots. You can't tell unless you watch the games. There's an analytic for everything out there. But watching these players, watching off the ball, not on the ball, off the ball, that's how you learn who's involved in these games. It's hard, man. It's tough. DFS, what we do isn't easy. People like fantasy football because they think they can spend 3 days of the week not looking at their teams. That is how you lose. So watching the games is just so important here. And Jason, by the way, thank you for also showing up. My lady got me into the NBA a few years ago, Knicks fan, so watch every game, but love catching other games. It's amazing how much you pick up. Exactly. Trust me, I'm a Knicks fan too by heart, but I don't watch the Knicks every game because what about the other teams? What about the other 29 that's in there that we're writing bets for, that we're also covering for DFS NBA? Can't do that if I'm watching the same team every night. I watch a half. And I note in my notebook whether I watch the first or the second half because things can change. If a team is up big in the first half and the third quarter ends and they're still up by 25, a lot of those starters are going to sit. But I don't turn off the game. Let's see these benches. All it takes is one injury. We see this league getting hammered by injuries. So all it takes is one injury and a rotational player becomes a bigger impact player. That's why watching the games, whether it's any sport, that's how you get better. And we provide that at fantasyguru.com because during the games in the Man's Cave in our Discord, Jeff Mans is there. Our analysts are there. You're all reacting to the games. He's reacting to the games. I do it on Wednesdays for basketball, and it's fun. And more of you should show up and watch the games. And yeah, you don't have to show up for the entire 3 hours, but tonight, not only am I doing Discord, I'll have the write-ups a little bit later on. I'll have bets a little bit later on. But after I do Discord lineup building, I'm staying in. I'm watching these games. I'm doing my own homework while hanging out with you guys. That, to me, is the real subscriber experience that I think gets lost. Give me picks. What about the process? What about learning so you can make the picks? I see it in our Discord. People are learning. You learn from others in there. Can't sell you on that any harder because that's what we're doing at fantasyguru.com. We're committed to all winning together, to learning these things together. It's weird that not even a month into the NBA season. So let's talk some NFL injuries because not only are we dealing with bye weeks, and then I'll get to little NBA preview, and I'll show you, for those that don't know, we have all these brand new tools. I showed you them last week on this stream. I'll show you them one more time this week while I'm covering DFS NBA. But for NFL, here is what we're looking at. We're looking at players coming back that we haven't seen in a while. Mike Evans being one of them. That's a good one here. That Bucs-Giants matchup is going to be crucial when it comes to fantasy goodness here between those two defenses. So Mike Evans scheduled to come back. I guess the Buccaneers had some kind of modified practice yesterday, and he was there, And I'm also seeing reports for today that he is in practice, which is a good thing. It's no surprise or anything. He's been targeting this week ever since he got hurt a few weeks ago. Evans has been targeting, and the Buccaneers have been targeting this week for him to return. So that's one we're going to be tracking a lot here when it comes to the injuries to Brandon Cooks. Another one for the Dallas Cowboys can need all of the help that he could get here, the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll have to see where we go when it comes to that. Outside of that, other injuries that we are going to be on the watch for throughout the week. I mean, it's a big, big list right here. Another one here, Isiah Pacheco. And this is where things get interesting because for all of us that listen to our buddy Jeff Bands and the Elite Sports Show on Sirius XM, Jeff was saying from the beginning, pick up Kareem Hunt. Well, what happens to Kareem Hunt with Pacheco back in? Also, what happens with Jonathan Brooks? We're going to finally see this guy, and is Chuba Hubbard going to lose a certain percent of his carries? I mean, we're dealing with this every single week with Jonathan Brooks. I mean, hopefully we see the guy at this point. But for those that have, and I have a couple of leagues where I have Chuba Hubbard and Kareem Hunt, yeah, you have to lower your expectations a bit unless we find out that neither is going to play. It's not a lock. Brooks, I think, is more of a lock that we see a little bit of him. I can't imagine he walks in and all of a sudden he gets 15 carries and Chuba Hubbard sitting there with 5 or 6. I don't necessarily see that game one of this situation, which leads me to say that I think that for those that have Chuba Hubbard, you might not have another option, but don't get too cute with that, because this is where when you have 6 teams on bye, you're hoping that someone falls into the end zone and gets you those points. And for a little bit, there were a lot of low scores last week, but you want to lower your expectations for these guys. Kareem Hunt, that's going to be a tough one. Not saying he still can't get carries. He did a good job. Not saying that he can't catch a few passes. He can. We just don't know. The ceilings on these guys at this point are in question, and they're going down. And we don't know. We have to take it week by week at the end of the day. We do. That's the only thing we can do at this point. For this particular week, you might be stuck. And that's okay. One of your guys in a PPR gets you 10 to 12 points that has been doing better, but now in a little bit of a timeshare. That's fine. That's fine. You got 6 teams on bye. The Falcons, the Bills, the Bengals, the Jaguars, the Saints, and the Jets. It's almost like with those last 3, who cares for the most part? Oh, Taysom Hill. Oh, my goodness. But that, man, who got Taysom Hill last week? I did. I had him in one of my lineups and then took him out. Not only took him out, but I dropped him and ended up starting Will Dissly, who's been a hot pickup, by the way, definitely involved in that Chargers offense. We've seen that Chargers offense hum, but Will Dissly has been impactful. It didn't go for too much on waivers as well, which I was very interested in. I'm sitting with leagues where we have David Njoku, who's been limited in practice. Remember, the Browns are playing the Steelers on Thursday night. In these divisional games, for Pittsburgh especially, you start to kind of worry about some of your Browns options here, including Nick Chubb, including Jerry Jeudy, and including David Njoku. But the thing that we're still looking for is not trying to be too cute, but we're looking for volume. So even if it's going to be tough for those guys against the Steelers defense, I mean, if we're still seeing 8 to 10 targets, we're going to put that trust into them and hope for one long catch. For David Njoku, a few if he ends up playing. Another tight end that's dealing with a concussion is Jake Ferguson. So Schoonmaker, after getting 10 targets, on Monday Night Football, that's something we're going to have to look into in a possible streamer for all of you out there that are dealing with tight end issues, because we have a lot of banged up tight ends. Sam LaPorta, and to everybody out there, by the way, that has Sam LaPorta, I'm sorry. It has been not a fun roller coaster when it comes to Sam LaPorta with that shoulder. It's good seeing Jared Goff bounce back after throwing, 5 picks he bounces back and he's throwing touchdown after touchdown. The Lions offense has been absolutely great. It's interesting remembering and thinking back to the NFC Championship where the Lions were so close and then they coughed it up and the 49ers brought it back. Now with what we've been seeing from the 49ers and the Lions this year, Lions could be that team, could be going to that Super Bowl. They have so many weapons on that offense. I mean, besides Sonic and Knuckles and Amon-Ra, also Jameson Williams, we saw him get utilized. So Sam LaPorta comes back in, just add him to the list here. They have so many ways they can beat you, and they've got a great matchup coming up here against Indy. So that's going to be a fun one. So there's a lot to watch out for. From the San Francisco side, George Kittle with that hamstring. I'm reading, though, that apparently it's not a bad injury, and it was very 50-50 whether or not he was going to play last week, ended up not playing. So that's why, to me, I'm not overly concerned. The Raiders' run game situation got banged up. Alexander Madison left the game with an ankle injury. Zamir White with the quad. So we'll have to see there. Some of you might be stuck. And if they're not playing, they're not 100% going in. You could be looking at someone like Amir Abdullah, let's just say. Again, 6 teams on bye. We need volume. We're chasing volume. We're not chasing the home run swing. We're chasing guys that are going to get us 10 carries. Receivers, pass catchers, tight ends that could get us 6 to 10 targets. That's how I handle these types of weeks. And I mentioned you a few of these guys already, like Njoku, like Ferguson, guys that are going to be out now. The tight end pool, pretty bare. Those are a few that you can look at. If Disley is there, he's in the Monday night game. I don't think he's there anymore unless you still have waivers running, which, by the way, I know that's something that's been brought up. And in my home league, we do Tuesday waivers into Wednesday. I'm going to vote to change that. I've thought this for a few years. I feel like Wednesday into Thursday waivers is ideal. The only time it's not ideal, Christmas, one of the most joyous days of the year, and we don't get to fully enjoy and benefit from it because we've got waivers, even though there's a Wednesday game and leagues have waivers Wednesday into Thursday. So make it make sense when it comes to that. Commissioners, by the way, you might want to think about that a little bit. It's one of those things where you haven't made a rule about it already. Kind of tough to just lodge in rules regarding waivers around them. These are big weeks. I believe that's what week 17, the start of. Just something to think about. And that's, again, Tuesday waivers, they're fine. Wednesday waivers into Thursday, not so fine. Other injuries that we're going to be watching out for, I actually picked this guy up and wondered if, if anything, a safe floor of targets, Adam Thielen, who's involved in that Panthers offense before hurting himself week 3. It's looking like he's going to be ready to rock and roll. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But I don't want to say it's found money or anything like that, but you can't forget about these guys. And you got to remember who's coming off IR and who has had their practice window open that could be making an impact. Because here's the thing. If these guys haven't been, and this is where you got to be careful with projections on these free sites that you play on, they're not going to show you when you're looking to pick up. And even if you look at their own projections, some of these guys that are just coming off IR, not necessarily ruled in. So it's almost like these projection systems are going to make like they're a zero still or very low end until they're confirmed in. And you might not see them on their projections the highest up when it comes to those lists. So that's why you have to know who has had their practice window open up, because that doesn't necessarily mean, as we've learned, they're going to be activated, but that still means that they're on the cusp of being activated. So we should see Adam Thielen this week, according to all of the reports. I will have the practice reports ready to rock and roll when it comes to Wednesday for week 12, a little bit later on. Those will be up there. The Monday night teams, they do not practice generally on Wednesdays outside of maybe a walkthrough. And of course, the 6 teams on bye will be noted there. So I'll have that up for you. I'll have the practice reports Thursday. And then Friday will be the official injury report with a little fantasy spin on what it means if certain players are out. But the big ones that we're going to be watching out for in summary: Mike Evans, Brock Purdy with the shoulder, George Kittle with the hamstring should be fine, Isiah Pacheco, and also Jonathon Brooks, because it does impact Kareem Hunt and Chuba Hubbard, or it should impact. Here's the thing with Chuba Hubbard. Kareem Hunt, I'm a little bit more nervous about, even though it's more looking like Jonathon Brooks, as of this moment, is going to be active. They extended Chuba Hubbard for a few years, which kind of surprised me a little bit. I thought they were going to get what they can out of Chuba Hubbard and then give the backfield to Jonathon Brooks just like that. That's why we drafted the guy when we did in the 8th round, despite him starting off the season hurt. And it's taken this long to even see this guy. So the return on the investment, not so good unless all of a sudden he's given 18 to 20 carries, and moving forward, he shows just how good he is and how quick he can adapt to the NFL level. So with Chuba Hubbard, I think that there's still a pathway for him to be pretty involved. And maybe we'll see more of a split rather than all of the carries, or 85 to 90% of the carries going to Brooks over the next few weeks. We'll have to see, though. I mean, if Chuba Hubbard's not running well one game and Brooks is, that balance of power is going to shift right there. For this week, though, I think it's still okay to start Chuba Hubbard. Kareem Hunt, we're going to have to watch those practice reports and the injury reports, and I will be on it. I update the injury report on Saturday and on Sunday morning as well. When you wake up, you should see some updates of the reports out there of who's in and who is out. This is it. Your seasons are on the line. We have to pay attention. Don't not look at your teams, because at this point, with so many on bye, we're going to have to make sure we're picking up players that might see their ceilings rise just a little bit. A lot of injuries out there, and we're going to have to take advantage. Someone who we might not be as focused on could lead us to victory. Did you think that we'd be talking about Schoonmaker? Actually, I thought we'd be talking about Ferguson as a darling the entire year. I thought he was one of the best valued players in fantasy football, especially at that tight end spot. 9th round, great. He was good towards the end of the year, amazing, and that hasn't been the case. I know he was a little bit banged up, but still, it just hasn't been the case. So let's break from football for a second. We'll go back to it in a little bit, maybe answer some questions here. But let's talk a little NBA, because for those that don't know by now, we've got a lot of new tools at fantasyguru.com. And these tools are absolutely outstanding. Been working with the model, our CEO, Rob Brink, on these tools. I talked about them a little bit last week, but for those that play fantasy football and are part of the elite mafia, for those that maybe aren't doing as well in their season-long leagues, play DFS. Jeff Mans has his cash game breakdown that has a very in-depth analysis every single week, and he has a core four to go along with it that he messes with throughout the weekend up to the games. But maybe you want to try out another sport. And yes, Jason, you absolutely should get that DFS package too. There, we've got packages out there with hoops and hockey, but get that DFS NBA package, because we are here to help you. That's what it's all about. It's not just the articles come out, they get updated, and we help you in Discord. And then you've got these tools as well as part of fantasyguru.com, which have been a lot of fun. The one that's below the dotted line, for those that haven't seen these new tools yet, the projections and ownership, that's the one thing that doesn't update automatically. That's right. Every 10 minutes, I would say 10 to 15 minutes, I've actually been watching these tools, and they update on their own. You don't even have to refresh your screen. They update based on the model's model. And he'll have something about that at some point, about what exactly the science that goes into his model. But been watching and comparing my plays. I don't look at the tools before doing my write-up. Once I have my players picked out, that's when I start comparing what I think the player is going to do versus what the model says. And yes, sometimes I do go against the model in certain situations. But when a player is ruled out, you see it update, and it updates every 15 minutes, which is just freaking awesome. So when you go to the AI projections model there that you'll see, and again, how you get to these tools, very easy. You go to fantasyguru.com. You go to the data section, the NBA section, and in the two columns, the two props on the bottom of both columns, those are these props that are listed right here. What is going on, Diggs? It's great to see you. Great to be here on a Wednesday with all of you on Fantasy Sports Daily. So when it comes to the AI beta props and everything, it gives you the opponent. It gives you as well the price you could toggle between FanDuel and DraftKings. And that's pretty crucial because in DFS NBA this year, we've had a lot of split slates between the two sites. So tonight, for instance, is not. But when we have a 11-game slate, let's just say, we're seeing a lot of late night games being left off of DraftKings. So maybe there's a 3 to 4 game variance right there with the slates. We cover them all in my write-ups. I cover them all. I just pretty much put in red what players only apply to FanDuel, unlike DraftKings. And I try to even it out so for those that play on FanDuel can have enough to choose from. Those that play on DraftKings can as well. Beyond that, you have the price point for them on the site, which is huge. The defensive ranking opponents, a minutes projection too. And you'll get injury notes there. And it's highlighted on players like I'm looking right now, Paolo Banchero, still not ready to play. So because he's dealing with the oblique injury, they have him at red, 0 minutes, and that has evened itself out. So there are some players, and the thing that we're working on with these projections are when a player is not necessarily ruled in, but not on the injury report. That's an area where we're working on with these projections. But not only can you look on the list and you can organize by position here, this is the NBA player AI projections model. That link that you see right there. You can also search for the players very quickly if you're doing quick searches. And these update, and it's just fantastic to see. You can make the list as big as you want. Let's go from the top tool to the bottom tool because the NBA projections and ownership, that's one that needs to be updated by the site, and that's where you find the potential ownership as well. Something else that you can also potentially do is you can find them through the sites too, but we will have an idea regarding ownerships when it comes to whether a player is valued better in a GPP versus a cash game. I try to identify that in the article for those that are looking for the GPPs versus the cash plays. The GPPs might not have a safer floor, but could have a higher production ceiling and lower ownership on them. So we talk all about that in Discord. But for the tool that's below the dotted line, that one needs to be updated, which it is about once or twice a day by our website here at fantasyguru.com. Really cool tools, though, and I wouldn't be talking about them right now and spending the time talking about them if they weren't working, if they were off. And not everything is perfect, but I'm watching these models throughout the day and talking with our CEO as well about what's working, what's not working, what's updating very quickly. If you see a player get instantly ruled out, give it a little time before you hit us up and you're like, hey, I'm seeing that this player, that player not ruled out. It adjusts, but it takes maybe 2 cycles, so it might take 20 minutes, which is why Discord is very crucial. And I can't say that enough for a sport like NBA. Let's go to the Delta Force tool, and let's talk about what that is, because the Delta Force tool is very interesting because it talks about the potential ceilings of certain players and how much of a return you can get on the value if certain players are ruled out. And this is where you find a lot of your players here. And I'm looking at it right now. And by the way, it will give you, if you look to the right of the Delta column, which shows which players have had their ceilings lifted for production standpoints, if you look at the right side, you'll be able to see the potential return on investment that you can get. In DFS NBA, for my core plays or for any play, I look for that 5x return. That's the magic number for me. For me, a win on the night is when I have a core 4 that gives me at least 5x return on value on the sites. So looking at the Memphis Grizzlies right now, two things. The Memphis Grizzlies, they have a few players that are banged up. And if someone like Ja Morant is out, you're going to see Marcus Smart up there. Marcus Smart is one of the highest Delta players out there right now because it shows that if he plays, he could have himself a little bit of a bigger role. Now, if Marcus Smart gets ruled out, you'll see someone like a Scottie Pippen move up too. This does take price point into consideration a little bit, but you got to remember, not all Delta plays can necessarily translate to the return on investment. Just because a player gets more usage in the NBA does not necessarily translate to them producing more. It should, but if a player like Lou Dort, let's say, is missing those shots and passing off quickly, all of a sudden doesn't translate. You could see a player setting up the offense a little bit more, but not shooting as much. And that's where we have to be careful. So this is where you see a lot of your values, a lot of your value options. Dyson Daniels, for instance, is up there today. And that's because I instantly know that Jalen Johnson is questionable and there's a chance he doesn't play. So that's where, even though Jalen Johnson is a little bit of a different position, very different position. Daniel's a shooting guard. Jalen Johnson is a power forward. And Jalen Johnson, one of the things we know about him, and you see from the stats, he brings up the ball a decent amount. And when guys like Bogdan Bogdanović are hurt, he's going to bring up the ball even more beyond Trey Young. Trey Young is the usage master there. But then you've got Jalen Johnson right after that in Atlanta. You take him out of the mix, you need someone that's going to help Trey Young bring up the ball and have more time with the ball. And that is why Dyson Daniels is one of the highest players ranked on the Delta Force. It shows the potential ceilings of these players. But I caution you, you must look at this not just once a day, but later on, because variance changes in the NBA all the time. And sometimes we get a big news dump, and that's where everything can change. Jarris Walker, this is another example. This is a guy who I actually thought last year, his rookie year, was going to be good because I thought the Pacers could use some backup help, especially going into the year. Remember, last year the Pacers did not have Pascal Siakam to start the year. He was with Toronto. So I thought when they drafted this guy, which I believe it was 7th overall, I thought Jarris Walker might have been walking into a starting role or big backup minutes. They get Obi Toppin. Okay, that experiment hasn't really gone as planned. So thought that he'd get more minutes there. No good. So now what did Indiana do? They ended up getting more pieces. They ended up getting Siakam, and they had guys like James Wiseman this year and Isaiah Jackson tear their Achilles. That's two bigs that are out of the mix right now. And then you have Miles Turner, who's been banged up. So now Pascal Siakam is almost your lone big man. They've got Moses Brown, who's just started into the mix, and he's up there on the Delta Force chart too. But he and Jarris Walker are up there, not only because of the Pacers situation, not because Houston's going to be a tough matchup for them. You could produce a little bit of it against Alperen Sengun, but Houston's not an easy matchup. From a pace standpoint, Houston's been playing faster, and that's been helping other teams, and that's why we've been going after them a little bit, but they play very good defense. So that's why when I'm looking at Moses Brown and Jarris Walker that are up there on the Delta Force chart, that is because of the pace standpoint in this matchup, and it's also because Miles Turner might be out for this game. He is considered questionable. Let me get you guys some of my plays that I'm going to be watching, just a few of the plays. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, someone we have to continue to watch. A player that could be a little bit more valuable in GPPs, primarily because he's kind of the guy there. He is the guy there. Gained a lot of usage when Chet Holmgren went down. But also coming off the back-to-back, people might shy away because it is an 8-game slate. People might shy away from necessarily playing an SGA, even though the Portland matchup is grand. They can beat up Portland, and that's something that we're going to have to just make sure that we watch. We watch that spread, which is something that I look at a little bit. 11.5 points. There is some risk attached to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, especially because he just played last night. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is made to play a lot of minutes, and he is also a big volume producer. So even though the price point is very high, it's still, when it comes to the game environment, it should be very strong for him. And even if he's just given 30 to 32 minutes, should be able to come through more of your GPP play right there. I mentioned Alperen Sengun. And with Alperen Sengun in that Houston-Indiana game, Pascal Siakam is going to be in trouble because the Rockets are very powerful. They've got guys that are very good at driving. Guys like Tari Eason, for instance. Someone who's not good at driving but still has size, and Pascal Siakam's going to have to watch him on that wing, is going to be Jabari Smith. Jabari Smith doesn't attack a lot. He should attack more. It would add more to his game. But it's going to be up to Sengun, who's going to start at the side and work his way inside. He's going to call for the ball right outside of the paint, and he's going to hope that someone cuts because he's a very good passer. Alperen Sengun, also from the pace standpoint, pace produces possessions. So I'm going to be looking a lot at this Indiana-Houston game. Even though Houston plays pretty good defense, I am still going to be looking at guys like Mathurin. I'm going to be looking at guys like Fred VanVleet and Tyrese Halliburton, for instance. And the other night, by the way, we had a night, and this could actually work out really well again. Fred VanVleet's rebounds and assist props have been in a good area as well. Just something I've noticed a little bit lately. But I want to go after the faster game environments. Bucks Bulls, that's one of them. Two very fast teams. The Bulls are the fastest moving offense in the league. The Bucks defense has been brutal. It's been horrible. Doc Rivers is a terrible coach. And the Bucks defense have not had any answers just yet. So you have to look at some of these Bulls options, like Josh Giddey, who's going to be running the point. And even you can look at a Nikola Vucevic as well. Just a few options that we want to take advantage of the pace right there. Even the Pelicans. The Pelicans have a lot of value options. And you see that I wrote there Trey Murphy, one of their main players. But the good thing about the Cavs, despite how good of a team they are, they play very fast. So the Pelicans have a massive pace-up spot tonight. And with pace-producing possessions, those ceilings of some of those Pelicans players, like Yves Missi, who is going to have a tough matchup against Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, that right there, we could take advantage of. Trey Murphy should be able to produce tonight. A lot of injuries when it comes to the New Orleans Pelicans. I believe they're even waiving Jalen Noel, who we've had to rely on as a punt play a few times. So they can sign Elfrid Payton off the street. Steph Curry, will just have to make sure he's probable, but he's fine. I was talking about the Cavs with the Pelicans. The Pelicans don't have a lot of size. It's Missy, and it's someone who I'm probably going to have in the value section tonight, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, who's proven he can score, want a little bit more on the rebounding side. But on the other side there, we're going to have to look at Allen and Mobley. Allen and Mobley tonight should be able to dominate that post this evening. Also will be interested, by the way, while I'm talking a little NBA, very interested to see what Joel Embiid does after getting called out by Tyrese Maxey. And the Grizzlies don't have a ton of size, so we'll have to see how many minutes Embiid is going to get. But we don't know, and I'm not going to play him at his high price point, even if it's a major pace-up spot. Memphis still rates well defensively, which scares me off of him if you're telling me he's only going to play 25 to 27 minutes. 27 minutes against the Grizzlies is very different than 27 minutes against the Wizards. The Wizards, maybe I can give a GPP throw to him. I can't do that just yet. I need to see more. He's not playing well. He's just not playing well. I don't know if he's hurt, disinterested. He just signed an extension. So it's hurting this team big time. And the one thing as well that he's not written up that I want to look at tonight, someone that's been coming through, maybe the lone bright spot for the Sixers, who have been horrible this year. The lone bright spot, Jared McCain, the product from Duke. Jared McCain has been good when it comes to setting up the offense, when it comes to scoring. He's a more mature, even though he's younger and less mature in the league, he's more mature to me than Cam Thomas. He doesn't force up as many shots. He somehow finds a way to get better shots. And with Kyle Lowry out, he's going to continue to get minutes. And that's someone that I've used in cores before that I'm going to continue to build around. So those are some of your plays right there. And this is why this is so great to watch this show every single day, Monday through Friday, because you get these nuggets. Because outside of that, the article is at fantasyguru.com, and you'll have to get the entire write-up by signing up, become a member of the Elite Mafia. But these are a few players, and this could have also changed. These are a few players, though, that I'm going to be looking at and likely writing about most of them come the article there. The other props that I'm going to show you very quickly, the totals prop and projections prop, that one is for totals. And the model, Rob Brink, our CEO of fantasyguru.com, has been working on totals for years. And in his model, when you have those NBA totals, what you're looking for, and again, you go to the data tab at fantasyguru.com, NBA, and you look at the bottom right, you'll see it. He is looking for at least mainly a 4% variance in what the total is going to be to determine if we should bet the over and the under. But he's also said room for error, 3% is okay. So according right now, a couple of those totals that are expected to go either over or under here, that Atlanta Golden State game is one of them that he's expected to potentially go under. Things can change, though, and it's going to depend on the status of Jalen Johnson, because they need him for overall offense, and you can get to the Warriors' bigs. So that's going to make an impact on the total if he plays versus if he sits. He's a big enough impact player. So that's why when you have questionable players, you have to be careful with totals and props, because just because a player might be ruled out in the morning, that can absolutely change. The other day, Joel Embiid was out for most of the day. And then all of a sudden we got a note that he is participating in pregame. And once you see something like that, most likely the player is going to play. You go from doubtful to all of a sudden active. It's the NBA. You got to be careful with that. So that's what the totals we're looking at, a 4% edge. There's an expected total column from the model's model, and then there's an edge percentage. You're looking for at least 3%, ideally 4% or higher for that edge, and you'll see it's highlighted for you those games that coincide with that edge. The final tool that I'm going to talk about here at fantasyguru.com is the NBA props tool. And we do a lot of betting as part of fantasyguru.com. I put bets in the betting sheets 6 to 7 days a week for basketball. And this one, pretty basic, updates every 10 to 15 minutes. And it gives you the model's projections for the players for the evening. So when I'm looking for props and I'm writing up on my original sheet before I give the bets that I'm most interested in, I come up with my projections and then I grade it against the model and I look for slight variance, and there you go. That is why we look up the props, and it will give you everything from the minutes expectation, opponent rank, whether or not the player is starting, points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, turnovers, even three-pointers, and when it was last updated too. So that's a little basketball for all of you out there. And so the basketball tools, again, in the data section, you should find them. You should enjoy them. And it's going to be a great rest of the NBA season. We're just getting started. We're having a lot of fun. We're not even a month in. Core 4, for the most part, last night was very solid for DFS. For betting, we hit a little skid, but now we've bounced back from that skid a little bit. Still getting hooked a little bit, like with Desmond Bane's boards. Also put in some double-double and alt-line parlays. But we've been getting very close, but no cigar. But we don't give up the process at this point. We never give up. And that's why these tools exist. That's why they're here, because we're putting more into our NBA product. And once football is over, this is what's up. This is what's here. This is what's in. This is what's hot. NBA. And we've got a great team that are ready to help you win, because that's what we're all about. And that's why we say that this is the place where winners win. Let's talk about a little bit of football once again here, because for football, and with that, and let me just put this here, boom, look at that. And again, I'm seeing our buddy Rich Mileto in the chat there, stuck on a little work conference. It's all good, Rich. Don't worry about it. Don't beat yourself up about it. You didn't even have to comment that. It's all right. You work very hard, as we all do, at the website. And by the way, you can hear me on SiriusXM every single Sunday from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern for the Fantasy Football Postgame Show. Jeff Mans hosts the pregame show at 11 a.m. Eastern. I host at 8 p.m. Eastern, going over everything that has gone on. Let's talk a little Bo Nix, because I was very excited about him going into the season. And this is, again, why we look to watch the tape as much as we do, because when you're watching him and when you watch him, you saw him, but you saw some positive signs from him, even though the production wasn't there. Then he had a decent game where he threw for over 200 yards against Tampa Bay. And you're like, okay, even though from a fantasy standpoint, it wasn't that great, you're seeing this guy not throw picks, not really turn the ball over. You like that. Since week three, Bo Nix has thrown just 2 interceptions. 2. You saw him carve up in week 11, Arizona, for a season high 36 fantasy points. Not the first time he's carved up a weak defense. Carved up the Panthers weeks earlier. Similar results. He's thrown 2 picks. He's now thrown multiple touchdown passes in 5 of his last 7 games. This is someone that if you still have waivers running, going up against Vegas, this is someone that you should look to pick up, and it might be too late. Might just be too late. But Bo Nix still has his bye coming up in week 14, but that's okay. You can use him as a potential stream. I think for those that have already had waivers pass, if you're in a 12 or 14 team league, I think you're too late. Someone picked up Bo Nix. 10-team league, though, and you need a streamer, Bo Nix is someone that you can officially put trust in. Done well, 20 points or more in 3 of 4 games, I'm fine with that. When I'm looking for a streamer, yes, I would love a 25 to 30-point effort. But if I get 20 to 23, I'm happy. If I get 18 to 20, I'm not that happy. If I get below 18, then it was a failed stream. But if I get 20 or more on a stream with a lot of teams on bye, I'm totally cool with that. Another quarterback that I'm going to be using for streaming purposes, who's out there and who's had some of those weeks right around 20 points. But he's got his teams healthy. He's got Arizona. We were just talking about Bo Nix and how well Bo Nix did against the Cardinals. Well, now Geno Smith has him this week, and I picked him up in 2 leagues to start him there. And he's coming off a bad week against San Francisco. He didn't throw for any touchdowns, but we've seen it against easier defenses to throw on here. I mean, for me and for these purposes, that's kind of what I'm looking for. And with him, with Arizona, you know it's going to be very quickly. Want to just say this, made a little bit of a mistake. Want to backtrack for a second. Bo Nix was just facing Atlanta, not Arizona last week. So a little bit of a different scenario. But here's the thing with these 2 matchups. Atlanta, yeah, weaker defense. And that's where Bo Nix was able to thrive. And he faces Vegas almost as weak of a defense. And he should be able to carve them up. But Geno Smith, here's the thing with Geno Smith. The opponent for him, while it will be a little bit tougher to have that kind of success, at the same time, should be throwing a little bit more because the Arizona offense can definitely put up some points early on against Seattle and then could be playing from behind the Seahawks. And that's where Geno Smith can absolutely benefit. And that's one of the reasons why I'm fine with him as a streaming option. It's only a 1-point spread. So it could be Arizona goes up and then Geno has to throw, but there are worse options to stream at this point. Me, fast-paced game, that's what I like, and that's why Geno Smith is one of those streamers for me. Geno Smith hasn't had a lot of those great games this year. He hasn't had, what maybe we thought he was going to be, but he has surpassed 20 points in 2 of his last 4. So if I'm hoping for 20 from him, that's fine. The one thing with Geno Smith that's been bad lately, the interceptions. He's thrown 5 over his last 3 matchups. So this is one where he might not be getting you the 30 to 35 point upside that Bo Nix has. But for those out there where there's no Bo Nix, 20 to 23 point upside, I think that Geno Smith has that for this Arizona matchup right here. We always talk a little defenses on this show too, and looking for those that still play with defenses that you can look to stream. Some of those defenses that could still be out there. I mean, you're not getting the Houstons and the Kansas Cities and the Pittsburghs out there. You're just not getting it. And I think that one defense that could be out there, that could be beneficial, because the New York Giants are turning to Tommy Cutlets here. So with that, and I hope everyone just didn't think I flipped them off. I would not flip off anyone. I'm a classy guy, 60% of the time. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a decent option that still could be out there. I found the Washington Commanders out there too. They haven't been great, but now facing Dallas, and you might be able to ride them out as well. For those that have just been streaming every week, you might be able to ride them out for the next few weeks, because they have Dallas and then they have Tennessee. You drop them and you pick up another for week 14. Then they've got the Saints right after. So I like the next couple of matchups for the Washington Commanders, hoping for 8 to 10 points from them when it comes to that defense. Looking to see if there's any other news here regarding the NFL. I'll, like I said, have the practice reports. I'm seeing something out there that Isiah Pacheco will end up practicing today. So we'll have to see if he ends up practicing. But from the reports, and I'm doing a little bit of a quick search here, he should be out there. He should be for sure. And I will say that with Isiah Pacheco, I don't know what kind of role he'd be walking back into, but they seem to be confident that he's going to be ready to roll, and that could mean not good things, and it will ultimately mean not great things for Kareem Hunt. But let's also not forget that this Chiefs offense, while they do have options, they've also had a couple of options that are out too. So maybe he gets a little bit of work in the passing attack, and if you're stuck, he gets you right to that 10-point mark. Flipping the bird isn't classy, Hal. I mean, I guess in today's day and age, it happens so often. I just remember one time I was maybe, 10, 11 years old, and my ma, for a birthday, bought me a CD, and it was the Kid Rock Devil Without a Cause CD. You open up the CD, and it's literally Kid Rock giving you the finger, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, my parents didn't think so at the time, but that's something I remember. I'll never forget that CD cover. For those that don't know what a CD is it's a compact disc. There, it's circular, and you put it in a CD player there. Nothing to do with MP3s or iPods, but it's a circle, looks like almost a donut with a hole right there. It was something that we all had to use in the 90s and 2000s. For those that are younger, that are watching this stream while in class, because I know in class, everybody has a laptop these days. So Mike Evans we're on watch for. Isiah Pacheco we're on watch for. Both reportedly going to practice for today here. And that's the start of it right there. Some of the high totals on the board that we're going to be looking at for the week include the 49ers-Packers game at 47.5. The Eagles-Rams, that one's going to be an awesome one at 49. And then I talked about this here with the Cardinals and the Seahawks, even though it's a 1-point spread, still a 47.5 there. And then your Monday night game between the Ravens and the Chargers. The Chargers offense looking a lot better. The Ravens defense has not been good. So that one on Monday night, I am so looking forward to right there. And yes, Hal, you do remember when it comes to the Discman back in the day. I love that right there. See, imagine if they knew what a Game Boy is at this point, kids these days. But it's been great hanging with all of you today. Again, a little bit later on, some of the content that's going to be coming out from my end. I've got from the NFL side, the Wednesday Week 12 practice reports. Those will be out on the site. they'll come out and I'll do another pass through in the night to make sure they're fully updated. Not every team spills their secrets until later on. It's kind of annoying, but hey, at least we don't have to worry about the Ravens, who are one of those notorious teams, because they're not practicing. They've got the Monday game. From the basketball side, I have the DFS NBA write-up that's going to be coming out later on. I'll have NBA bets that I'm going to be putting out too. And then make sure you're in Discord for all of the lineup building help. And watch along Wednesday tonight in the DFS NBA Discord room. The DFS NBA Discord room. I'll stop by the betting Discord to see how everybody's doing, but I'm mainly writing my game notes in the DFS NBA Discord room. Just stop by for a little bit. I'll be hanging there watching games for a couple of hours, going over notes, going over where we went right, what went wrong, what happened, and how we will prepare moving forward. Ray Flowers will be back on tomorrow and Friday, same time, same place, same channel for Fantasy Sports Daily. Thank you all for hanging with me, for tuning in, getting a little flavor of football and basketball, the place where winners win, right here on the Elite Plus Network, part of FantasyGuru.com.